people's living. You split a farm, you do something, you take away our living.
I feel it, not just you, but I guess a lot of other people in these urban political arenas, they come out here and look at our cropland, our fields, our black land, and they consider it undeveloped property, and I guess feel that they might be able to, you know, get it for a lower price if this road was to go through, but I feel they don't realize that this is not undeveloped property. This is our land. It is developed into very productive farm and ranch lands that bring in, you know, millions of dollars every year in crop, like they stated before, renewable crops every year, that the ethanol issue can be dealt with, produce ethanol, feedstocks, food for the numerous people that are here in the state, and these numerous people that you guys keep indicating that are going to come. And also, I kind of have an issue with that. I mean, those are just projections you guys are going on. I mean, they're not actual facts. You're just, it's a possibility it could happen, but it's a possibility that those projections may not ever come true also.
How many farm and ranches are heritage farm and ranches that have been in families for 100 years? We're just going to say, so sorry, we enjoyed it while we were plowing it under.
And I too grew up in a farming and ranching rural Texas. In fact, my family is all on the route. But beyond just the route, the whole project makes me very nervous. Even some of the literature here tonight, and when they will have access to the county and local roads, the presentation acted like, of course that's going to be done, but in your literature here it says may or be considered or such, where I want some definites on this.
Not only that, if you go out here 10 miles from town, 5 miles from town, 1 mile from town, if there's any ag land from there to 35 or a metropolitan area, it is gone. Forget about it. Agriculture is a unique business, and it comes back to compensation. A piece of land to a farmer, it is a tool. A business, you can go build another building, you can have a business relocated. You cannot relocate a farmer because he loses his land. Most farmers out there, and I know most of them, they're still here. I watched them grow up. They put together businesses based on units of different farms. If you want to pay him for his loss in something like this, you pay him for his future earning ability on what he's put together. It goes way beyond those acres. He can't replace those 5 acres.
All the money for this Trans Texas Corridor is coming out of our pocket, and for what? It's not going to benefit us in any way. These toll roads are just going to screw us over. We're already paying out the butt to get the gas to drive to our jobs, to earn more money, to drive to our jobs every other day. We're paying for it with our blood, as my father said. This is our land, this is our work, this is our freedom that we're fighting for here. And I beg you tonight to stop this. I beg you with everything that I have, everything that I've worked for in my life, to stop this. This is going to kill me.
I believe it's a tragedy that we have to come here tonight and try to convince someone, don't build it on my land, build it on my neighbor's land. The neighbor comes over and says, don't build it on his land, build it on my land. It's a sad commentary.
I would not like to lose my 40 acres because we saved and scrimped to get it. This was supposed to be my retirement because we all know Social Security is not going to be there. And once they displace us, where are we supposed to go?
It is an outrage when you have, for example, TXDOT and other officials claiming that we voted on the corridor by passing Proposition 15 in 2001, because nowhere on the ballot were the words Trans Texas Corridor. No one knew what they were voting on. It went there to the legislature. House Bill 3588 was passed almost unanimously by a supermajority of our legislature. And what were they doing at the time? They were arguing about redistricting. Hundreds and hundreds of pages of bills they did not read, and now you're seeing people jump off of it and say, well, I didn't know. We need to rout this legislature. We need to go after all these people who have sold us down the river on this deal. And I can go on and on. Don't take it from me. Mike Moncrief, who's a big elected official in this area, he's the mayor, I take it you all know that, of Fort Worth, longtime state senator, county commissioner, he's been through this. He himself said this deal is an abrogation of the separation of powers of our government. They have run roughshod over cities and counties. It's that, if they do that to elected officials, what do you think they're doing to us, regular folks?
I and my husband have a family farming operation at Vine, Texas, and I am opposed to the Trans Texas Corridor. The primary concern for Texas leaders begin considering the road should not be profit. And money was the primary concern that motivated this idea. Money for private investors. Instead, the primary concern should be geography. How will the road impact the land, the people who live there, and the people who will use the road?
As a sixth generation Texan from the Austin, San Marcos area, I'm vehemently opposed to this whole college scenario. I believe that our Governor Perry, is an underhanding brother-in-law, worked with this company from Spain to build this corridor.
Governor Perry's office says that he's interested in rural Texas. In fact, with 3 special legislative sessions, Governor Perry has made it clear that his primary interest in geography has to do with voter distribution, redistricting, and Republican political agendas.
Why don't we people get to vote on the thing and all that? It is obvious it is very obvious from the comments that are made here tonight that the people are not in favor of this boondoggle at all. And I think that after I have researched it and done some checking on it, there are 2 types of people that are opposed, that are in favor of this. There's one type of people that are opposed to it. The grassroots Americanists are opposed to this. We own the land. We should be able to keep the land.
County Judge John Burroughs. Okay. Sorry, everybody's been welcome.
Why that Texas DOT is unwilling to disclose the contract as it has been directed by the courts in the state of Texas.
As a county commissioner, we will make a decision, and about half the people are happy, and the other half are unhappy. But in your position, it seems like you're making almost everybody unhappy. Because I, for one, don't want the corridor through Parker County.
On behalf of myself, as Bosque County Judge, Commissioners Court, my commissioners, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Koonsman, Mr. Hardison, Mr. Schmidt, we represent over 500 years of families, businesses, traditions, and values that we treasure dear to this county. I think it's safe to say we haven't adjusted yet to the second stoplight in our county. And we're certainly not far 1 inch of the Trans Texas Corridor in Boston County.
Our mayor, Mr. Moncrief, said, and I quote, "with applause and welcomes the Trans Texas Corridor." Well, he didn't ask me. I don't applaud it. But Mr. Mr. Moncrief has a tendency to like things that take other people's private property and give it to other private concerns, like the Trinity River boondoggle. Okay.
It's a sad day in Texas when a lowly, conservative, or kindergarten teacher has to come out in a public meeting like this and become some kind of political activist. I'm now transformed. I don't call this the Trans Texas Corridor. I call it the Trans Texas Corridor because I consider it a door of horror.
I don't think there's anybody in Texas whose quality of life is going to be improved by this.
I think we ought to all have hope that on the 7th of November we can put Mr. Rick Perry into another line of work and show him and everybody else that's on his side, including my opponent, that this is not the kind of thing that the people of Texas want. That's the American way, that's the Texas way. That's the way of the land of the free and the home of the brave. Now, I have just been to Georgetown. We had 265 people down there. I made a speech to that group of folks. 263 of them were against it. 2 of them said they were for it. I think we've got a prairie fire burning across Texas. And I think the prairie fire is going to show those who have ill-advised and put this program forward that it's not a good thing and it's not what the people of Texas want. Let me see a show of hands here. A lot of people have gone. I know it's late. Everybody that's against this, hold your hand up for me, please. Now, put them down and let me see how many are for it. I believe it's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
You know, there's a way of life. We could have lived in the Metroplex along with the hustle and the bustle and the crime and the noise and the pollution, but we've chosen to live here, as many of our families. It's a way of life that we value here, that we treasure. If we want to live in the Metroplex, we'll go to the Metroplex. We don't want the Metroplex at all.
But one thing I learned when I was in public education in Texas history is that Texans are a very brave people. We are a very patriotic people. And we're also a people that care about our land and our neighbors. And we will do anything we can to help our neighbors. I think part of that wisdom came across when we built this extensive farm-to-market road system that Texas had and outbeat so many states. We were concerned about getting our neighbors' produce to market, their cattle to market, and then to be able to be purchased and used. It was a system designed for efficient transportation and for commerce. I do not see this corridor for Texans. I do not see this corridor as helping Texans. I see this corridor, as many have already stated already, one that is more focused on internationalism and the benefit of people outside of Texans. I'm a Texan for Texas. And I think that we should use our Texas and our state dollars, and we should not allow eminent domain to be used for private benefit. We should not allow the tax base of our local governments to be taken away and not be able to use for their operating costs that they need. We do not need to have a massive corridor transportation system that's taking people away from communities of historic significance and to thrive on tourism.
How are we going to solve our $55 million shortfall? Well, I'll tell you one thing. We're not going to solve it by creating a $185 billion debt situation.
No voting date will be more important than the one in November, provided to you Perry's Road is despicable. Every one of us must keep after our friends and kinsmen who live elsewhere in this state, telling them of the consequences if the current governor wins the race. What a colorful picture we've just seen. Cars and trucks and trains zooming over, once upon a time, farms and ranches and country communities and hideaways for wildlife. What this picture does not show is a cowman standing sorrowfully, painfully in his corral, watching as his four-legged beauties, some black, some red, some multicolored, but every one a big part of him and his family as they are ushered into trailers for their ride to market. He literally breaks down when he realizes that their next owner will probably be Oscar Mayer. Neither does this film show a Perry agent at your door handing you an envelope and saying, here's what the state will give you for your place. You have 90 days to clear out. 35, if they build this corridor, it's just going to be the start of this well of petitions. We're going to have little segments of the state that's literally going to be severed from one another. It will not be Texas any longer.
We had a forming of government in 1876, whenever we had the Civil War that came about. Texans have been Texans ever since. They weren't Texans when they got here, but by golly, they got to be Texans, and that's the way it needs to be. But whenever we had our founding fathers forming this nation, Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or get me death. Well, I've got the liberty to fight this issue, and I'm not going to lay down and die, I tell you that. And if other people can get out and get their neighbors and their friends and get them to vote, we will beat this thing.
We do not want legislators writing bills and blindly passing bills without knowing the consequences. And no, finally and unequivocally, we do not want to divide our state. Shame on you, Rick Perry. Shame on your elected officials that play a part in this. We have asked you to do a better job for your constituents, and you have not paid attention. Now we demand better of you all. We demand better of you too, TXDOT. You who built a great system of farm-to-market roads in the 1930s and now threaten to dead-end them into this wall. You who built a brilliant interstate system in the 1960s and refused to consider widening the infrastructure that already exists along I-35 because you were afraid to displace businesses along I-35, and you choose instead to displace farmers and ranchers. May I remind you that farming and ranching is big business in Texas.
One of the points that y'all made in your presentation was that the end of Tier 1, it would be the final environmental impact statement at which all the concerns voiced would be addressed. Well, I'm probably not the only one here that thinks nobody's going to address these concerns. They're just going to disappear into the system. And the people who spent time over here doing on the computer, writing their comments, and that are sending them, I'm sure that they don't have much confidence that y'all are going to address any of these concerns. Because as far as I can tell, I'm the 28th speaker, and I haven't heard a single private citizen that was for this project. Not one.
A Texan by birth and by choice. Welcome to the raping, pillaging, and plundering of Texas and Texans. This Trans Texas Corridor is going to accomplish exactly that. My main objective to it is, or my main concern about it is, what about emergency response, emergency vehicles, terrorism along the pipelines? Why not just concentrate everything? That way the terrorists only have to use one bomb.
The matter is that not only are our elected officials up there fighting for money amongst themselves and going out and partying and having fun with the lobbyists and doing whatever they do, they don't care about us. And that's very evident. Whenever we do the things that make them happy and vote for them, oh yeah, they'll come out and they'll shake your hand, kiss your baby, pat you on the butt, do whatever they want to do. But that's what they're doing to get the vote. They're not looking for the votes now. You know, sometimes you just have to stand up for what you believe in. When they voted for eminent domain, that's not right.
and give us a road we can all support. Quit wasting our time and our money and do it right next time. I urge you all to get the facts. Go to the polls in November. Do everything you can do to stop the Great Wall of Texas.
Remember the Alamo. Stand up and fight for what's right and for what you believe in. Thank you.
I saw in your one slide where you mentioned the Texas Constitution, you used the words public purpose. The Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution does not use the words public purpose. It uses the words specifically public use. There is a difference. It was the egregious misinterpretation of the property rights of the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution by the United States Supreme Court in Kelo v. New London that the Texas legislature supposedly passed laws that would not allow the taking of private property by government unless it's for public use. Now,
Arthur Wendell Berry wrote in 1991, "Too many government leaders, people of wealth and power, do not know what it means to think a place is worthy of love." Berry is right. Too often our society promotes the idea that the most important aspect of life is the next job promotion, the next pay raise, or the next political office. Separation from neighbors and family is justified by the possibility of more money or more power. However, at Bynum, my family, the Walters family, like thousands of other Texas farm families, do believe that a place is worthy of love. The Walters family has maintained a family farming operation for 120 years. The Walters family has maintained the family farming operation for 6 generations. When my son joined the operation, he became the 6th Walters son to farm the land. The Walters family has held on to the farm through hailstorms, depression, droughts, grasshoppers, and tornadoes, low prices, and today's fuel prices. The Walters family, like many other farm families, has held on through